Welcome to the Mindful Healers podcast with
Dr. Jessie Mahoney
and Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang.
We are here to help you learn to pause and be present, awaken your breath, and harness the ripple effects of mindfulness for radiant health.
We get you. We know you. We are you.
We have both been successful on the surface, yet struggling underneath. We have both had cluttered brains, been overwhelmed, and exhausted.
We're healers who have found solutions and want to share them with you.
Join us here to discover a better way.
Welcome. A mindful reminder that this podcast should not be construed as medical advice. Our intention for you today is for you to reflect upon your relationship with time and perhaps give you some ideas in which you might be able to change that relationship to serve you better.
We hope you will discover that time is truly everything. It's one of our most precious commodities, and we can choose how we use it and how we experience it wisely.
Our takeaways that we hope you'll get will be that knowing everyone to some extent has some control over how they spend their time. Bringing mindfulness to this reflection about your relationship with time might provide the spaciousness that you need to make some intentional shifts for you to do more of what it is you want to be doing, as opposed to what you think you or others think you should be doing. So time can be viewed as a type of energetic currency because really no matter what you are doing or not doing in your life at specific moments in time, there is a caloric expenditure. So there's an energy expenditure that impacts your physiology that even if we're just sitting, even during meditation, seeing patients, or going to yet another meeting, it expends some calories. Deepak Chopra said once during a talk that he gave that we are the food of time. Time consumes us minute by minute, second by second. It's inevitable. It's a fact. And so it's true. And so basically the fact is that time will pass no matter what we do or don't do. And I ask you this question, how much effort is put into resisting this fact and this, quote, situation where we fight against time?
We often judge how we use time. And so even if we don't fight it, we look at it and we assess it and give it value, whether we wasted it or used it well, or whether we were efficient. And wondering if we can use the concept of time to our benefit. You mentioned choosing how you want to spend it, and perhaps choosing how you want to think about how you spent it, and whether you want no judgment. And when you were talking about the caloric expenditure, I'm just thinking about like our heart is beating no matter what we do, and our bodies are sitting there. If we think about ourselves more like animals who, in my mind, don't have much concept of time, they are just living in the moment, that really changes and takes the judgment out of time. And so you could also think about how you approach time with intention. And I often have people come to the realization when they discover something that's been impacting their life is to say, I don't want to waste any more time on doing X. I don't want to waste any more time ruminating, judging, blaming, criticizing. And that we can decide that we don't want to waste time. And instead, with intention, prioritize how we want to spend it and use time actually as a gift and an opportunity to spend it doing the things that we enjoy. One of the things that had came up in one of our previous episodes about minimalism is that it's sort of a way of using time. And minimalism, it struck me, is exactly about time. And it's basically minimizing the impact of other things on your time so you can choose how to use it wisely. And that we get to choose how we want to spend it. And again, not how we need to or should or have to, but how we want to or choose to expend it. What are your beliefs on how you spend your time?
So I used to believe that by spending hours after clinic charting or on my vacation, finishing my charts meticulously, being extensively thorough and comprehensive, and making basically a perfect progress note or a perfect H&P was well worth my time. But in actuality, medical record documentation can be done in a way that is much more concise, takes way less time, and is much more high value for its readers. It can provide a lot more clarity when you're much more concise about it, even if there is a grammatical error here and there. And yet, during medical school, we were taught initially, very rightfully so, I'd like to mention, to be initially quite meticulous in acquiring data from our patients, being thorough and comprehensive. But then after that, we are left with little to no tools to help whittle away the extraneous. And so we're left with a lack of clear guidance, left to our own vices to try to prioritize what it is that we want to communicate in the written document. We know that writing H&Ps and progress notes like a medical student is not sustainable in the time scarcity construct of practicing medicine, where many, especially in primary care, are seeing a patient every 15 minutes. So I used to practice medicine in a way where I held the belief that time was not my own, giving time and therefore giving energy practically nonstop to others. And because I was such a great rule follower and a perfectionist, I like to say I'm a recovering perfectionist, I thought I was supposed to practice medicine in this way. But this led to overcommitment, to depletion, and ultimately significant moral injury and illness. And with that experience of how I was spending my time practicing medicine, now realizing I was actually doing what I had wanted to do, what I had set out to do, but then also realizing that I lacked the time to do or be anything else. Namely, I lacked the time to do and be all the other things that I wanted to do with my life, like cultivating relationships and new skills outside of medicine, spending more time with my loved ones. And as an introvert, the key component that I need to recharge is time for myself.
So you describe time being seen as stressful and not and shifting the way that you see time. I like to change my thoughts to see time as an opportunity. For me, that has really shifted my experience. And that time and the way we think about it has energy to it. And so, what if you could think about time more as spacious or expansive energy? Because if you take out all the time that you have between now and death, there's a lot of minutes, a lot of seconds in there in which to be present and enjoy and things to experience. And so, this spacious, expansive energy, realizing how much time we have likely been given on this earth, and showing up with a more abundant energy and gratitude and appreciation for the time rather than tense and hurried allows us to enjoy whatever time it is that we actually are given. Another concept for me that's really helped me with time is that I can create time. And I create time by not actually creating time, but thinking about time differently and choosing what I think with intention. And so I used to spend a lot of time worrying and stressing and ruminating and focusing on things that were out of my control. And so when you choose to let go of that, you create time. The other way to create time in my mind is minimalism again, because when you have a lot of stuff, you have to spend a lot of time thinking about your stuff, cleaning your stuff, organizing your stuff, managing your stuff, and even just looking at the stuff that takes time and energy. And so I find that minimalism means that you have a lot more time.
So, this is our call to action for you, dear listener, to reclaim your time. And this phrase, reclaiming my time, was spoken in particular by Congresswoman Maxine Waters. And it has really inspired a new anthem. Believing that you too can reclaim your time by bringing a lens of mindfulness to how you view time. I wanted to also bring up Einstein's special theory of relativity. So basically, it mentions that the rate in which time passes depends on your frame of reference. And there's a common adage that time flies when you're having fun. And this has to do with some of the clinging that happens when we are experiencing moments of time that are fun. So the more pleasant it is, the more fun it is, the faster time seems to pass. Again, even though the time in the fun moment was enjoyable, there is even an underpinning of time scarcity in there. But what if you shifted your time of reference about time using mindfulness? So you use mindful time so that you let go of clinging or resisting time. So you can use this concept of allowing time to pass in whatever way that it passes, knowing that you can control, by and large, to some extent, how you use your time. And you can use that mind shift by moving out of some of your false beliefs regarding time. Knowing that your lifetime is finite, knowing that no matter what you do or don't do, time will still pass. Go ahead.
That reminds me of your hands wide open when you talk about that and non-grasping, just like time is literally the platter on your hands.
Exactly. And so the palms wide open approach is perfectly applicable to not resisting and not clinging to time. Time is just is, and time passes no matter what. I wanted to also share the tool that there's a grid in the e-workbook by the same name, Mindful Time, where I ask you to complete and have a clearer view for how your time is spent currently. And then I offer up some reflection questions about time in which I'll share with you here. Really for shifting your frame of reference on time through the lens of mindfulness.
Some reflection questions as we end this episode.
What would you like to devote less time to or more time to?
What if you had enough time to do everything you wanted to do and everything you wanted to be? What would it feel like to shift from predominantly time scarcity to predominantly time abundance? What if being in this moment was enough?
I invite you to check out my new e-workbook offering on mindful time to explore all this further. And please stay on after the sound of the bell for mindful moments for my mindful time practice. Mindfulness-based stress reduction, the foundational course, is open for enrollment. We start in September, and I also have a few spots left for one-on-one work with me in the Mindful Physician course, where time is one of the lessons.
And if you want to spend a week of your time nourishing and healing yourself in nature, join me for a Nourish and Transform retreat with coaching and yoga on a beautiful mountain sanctuary, a valuable and beautiful expenditure of time. Join me at the end of August 2021 or next year in March and April of 2022, there will be offerings. If you enjoyed listening to the podcast today, please leave us stars and reviews. We so enjoy your feedback and are immensely grateful that you choose to spend your time listening to us here at the Mindful Healers podcast. As always, if you want to declutter your mind, be more present, and start truly living your one wild and precious life, come find us at the mindfulhealerspodcast.com.
Work with one of us.
Work with both of us.
Start or uplevel your mindfulness practice.
Discover how mindful coaching can change your life.
Or even better, do both as part of our Mindful Healers programs and retreats. You can find links to find out more about our programs and join our communities at themindfulhealerspodcast.com.
Reach out and get started on your journey to a life better lived today.
The content of this podcast is not meant to be medical or life advice. If you choose to participate in our mindful moments, please do so safely. Welcome to this mindful moment. I invite you to practice with us if it's safe to do so. This is what I call a mindful time practice. It's to use any time, but particularly during moments when you're noticing time scarcity. It's a way of reclaiming your time so that when time scarcity shows up for you as a stressor, you might choose to use this mindful time practice to shift from stress response to present moment awareness. Allowing and accepting that time scarcity, not having enough time, running behind, being late, those are all normal human experiences. And most likely, especially in the clinical setting, if you happen to be running late or finding that you're short on time, that most likely it wasn't your fault. It wasn't an intention for you to create a situation of time scarcity. You weren't just twiddling your thumbs, wasting time, for instance. So I'm going to allow you to give yourself permission in this particular moment where you are noticing time scarcity as a stressor to close your eyes, noticing what body sensations are present for you in this familiar stress response. Where do you feel the time scarcity stress the most? Is it the chest? Is it in your throat? Is there a temperature association with it? What are your actual body sensations of stress in this particular moment? Noticing them allows you to accept the body sensations, the stress response for what it is, just as it is, as it's happening. And perhaps in this moment, now bringing attention to the sensation of the ground beneath your feet. In this intentional shift of attention into literally grounding yourself, simply noticing the sensations of the feet, knowing that the support of the ground beneath you, regardless of how much time you do or do not have left, is there for you unconditionally. There's an abundance of support for you. There's a common humanity in this stressor that you're feeling in time scarcity. And that perhaps this grounding moment provides just a little bit of spaciousness for you to allow some options in which you can choose how you might proceed after acknowledging this moment of stress related to time. And as you're ready, blinking open eyes, allowing the light to come back in. Thank you for practicing. And may your time be abundant.